Welcome back to another edition of the Ice Shack here with my buddy Matt Jorgensen. We'll be talking about some first round recap, second round predictions, the battle tested Capitals surviving through the first round, and the wide open Western Conference that is.
Yeah, the first round, they always say it's the hardest to win. A record setting out to 18 overtimes in the first round. Very entertaining hockey.
Yeah, very entertaining. Always is. When you got games, multiple games every night, it's really a dream for hockey fans. Even if your team's not in it, like Buffalo leading the league in
That's right.
in TV viewers, so that's pretty sweet to see.
Yeah,
even
beating out Minneapolis and St. Paul coming in second place, so that was very interesting to say the least.
Yeah.
Also, there was a number of upsets by lower seeds in the first round. Matchups currently stand at the second round. The number 1 seed, the Washington Capitals, versus the number 2 seed, the Pittsburgh Penguins. The number 6 seed, the New York Rangers, taking on the number 8 seed, Ottawa Senators. Next, we got the is that right? I think that is.
Yeah, that's right. That's their ranking according to the whole NHL,
That's
not
what I
just their
thought.
conference.
Okay. And then 9 versus 12 must be the
Anaheim and Edmonton.
Yep.
And then we got 10 St. Louis for 16 the Nashville Predators.
We'll start off in Nashville and St. Louis. Obviously, Nashville coming off a huge victory against the Chicago Blackhawks, sweeping them in 4 games. What do you have to say about that?
Peter Laviolette with a great game plan coming against the Blackhawks. The mighty Blackhawks always seem to get playoff wins easy with that squad. I know you got Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane record wins for the Western Conference in the past 5 years in the playoffs. They're always around, but Nashville got through them in 4 games.
Yep. Stan Bowman, the Chicago Blackhawks general manager, stated on Monday that there will be big changes coming in. The Blackhawks recently fired Mike Kitchen, the assistant coach under Quenneville, for I think 4 or 5 years, and attaining 2 Stanley Cups while doing that. And Chicago, they were Stanley Cup favorites coming into the playoffs, and it's a whole different season coming into the second round.
Really is.
Nashville proved that, and with their 4 games and 4 wins against the Chicago Blackhawks.
13-3 in goals in that series. Pretty one-sided. Pecorine proved his Vezina, 3-time Vezina nominee. He proved that in this series and proved the doubts he's had from his past playoff series.
Moving on to the St. Louis Blues against the Minnesota Wild. The St. Louis Blues, that's funny.
Before we get too far in the second round, we had to get that out of the way.
Yeah, the St. Louis Blues, or I should say Jake Allen, taking on the Minnesota Wild.
Yeah, they played well, opportunistic offense and great goaltending, and that's what gets it done this time of year, honestly. And Mike Yeo with a great game plan against the Wild, his former team, and they played well. Credit the Blues. Credit the Blues.
Credit the Blues. The Wild couldn't find a way to get the wins with, I think, Game 2, they blew it with about 2 minutes left.
Jaden Schwartz had a nice goal there. Nice zone entry 2-on-2, and they used the
And it wasn't like Minnesota wasn't close. These games were all...
No, this was probably the tightest series of the first round, maybe arguably besides the Washington Capitals and Toronto Maple Leafs, who had 5 extra session games, but
in a 6-game series. So, that was a tight series as well. But, St. Louis came out firing, and St. Louis really showed it to people. They dealt Chet and Kirk at the deadline, so they weren't really expected to be doing much at this time of the year. But, hey, credit to them and Mike Yeo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they weren't expected much after that deal. Maybe the pressure was off and they were able to play a little looser, but they look like a good team right now.
What do you expect out of this series with St. Louis and Nashville?
I think Jake Allen's going to have to stand on his head again.
I think the goaltending matchup is going to be unbelievable.
For more games, these goalies are going to have to play better because they both had relatively short first rounds. I think this one's going to be very, very close and probably going into 7.
Yep, I agree. I got actually Nashville in 6, but I very well could go to St. Louis and Nashville in 7.
I agree. I got Nashville in 6 as well.
This will be a long series. I think it's going to be very physical. I don't think a lot of people really understand how big the St. Louis Blues are. You look at that Minnesota series, they were towering over the Wild and just kind of bullied them around. So I'm going to be interested to see how the Nashville responds to that. They're not a small team by any means, so it'll be interesting. But I got Nashville in 6.
I have Nashville too. With that line of Johansson, Arvidsson, who's the third guy? Blinken.
Forsberg?
Yeah, Forsberg. That line, one of the best in hockey right now. Mm-hmm. They're going to overpower, I think, the St. Louis Blues, and they may take over the series if Jake Allen can't stand on his head.
Yep. Moving on to the Anaheim Ducks and the Edmonton Oilers, the other Western Conference final or semifinal matchup that we got. We got the first and second seeds in the Pacific Division, actually, and kind of an interesting matchup. You got a Selke finalist and Ryan Getzlaf taking on the
Ryan Kessler.
Ryan Kessler and taking on the MVP finals, Connor McDavid. So
Yeah,
that'll
it'll be
interesting for
really
sure.
interesting there if you want to watch two players, that matchup right there. I'm sure Todd McClellan is going to be trying to get Kessler out there against McDavid as much as he can, even when he doesn't have the last change in Edmonton.
In Edmonton,
And
yeah,
I
that's
think
going to be an interesting. And actually, Anaheim, a lot of people aren't giving them the respect that they deserve. They're 15-0-3, I believe, in their last 18
Yeah.
games, which is perhaps the best team in hockey. So,
Yeah, 18 straight games they haven't lost in regulation, and when you can play a 60-minute game like the Ducks have been able to do these past 3 weeks and into the first round of the playoffs, sweeping the Flames,
I think
it's tough to beat a team like
I
that.
agree
Randy
with,
Carlisle has them going well.
I think that with the way Getzlaf has been playing this playoff series, I think Anaheim has really stood out to me as a favorite coming out of the West.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong; it's going to be a really veteran versus a really young rookie team. I think the Edmonton Oilers could prove people wrong here, but if it were up to me, I would say Anaheim in probably 5 or 6.
Edmonton, people had their doubts on Edmonton, especially coming into the playoffs, and even after that Game 4 blowout, 7-0, their youth was able to battle through that adversity, and they won the next 2 games, closing the series out in 6. So it'll be interesting. I think
The
the Oilers are well-rounded. McDavid had 1 5-on-5 point in the series, so they're a whole team. They're not just McDavid 97.
They're proving themselves that they're more than just Connor McDavid. And another thing that coming out of this series, you look at a guy like Sammy Vatanen, who's actually just returning for the Anaheim Ducks. He's a stud defenseman, top 2 or top 4 defenseman in that organization.
Yeah, Cam Fowler should be returning as well.
I heard that as well. So that's a huge boost to the Ducks. But, hey, it should be an interesting series, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Who are you picking here?
I'm going to go Anaheim in 6.
I got Edmonton in 7. I think they're gonna get rid of that home ice advantage that Anaheim has, and Edmonton's gonna take it.
Okay. Very interesting.
Moving on to the Eastern Conference, we got the Rangers and the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah, this I'd never really expected this matchup. I didn't really see Ottawa moving on to the second round, but Ottawa kind of proving themselves as the dark horse coming out of the East.
Mm-hmm. They played very solid in their own zone and opportunistic offense as well. Bobby Ryan was a star of that series, as long as their Norris Trophy favorite Erik Karlsson on the back end.
Yeah, Bobby Ryan, opportunistic in game 3 or 4, I believe, scoring that overtime goal.
Yep.
Erik Karlsson, not the best player in the playoffs right now. The guy is phenomenal. What doesn't he do? He brings it all for the Ottawa Senators in that back end, proving that's why he should be a Norris Trophy winner this year.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, look at New York Rangers. They're no easy task either. They still got one of the arguably the best goaltenders in the league.
Henrik Lundqvist probably playing with most confidence this whole season right now.
Yep, I agree with that.
1.7 goals against per game in that first round with a 9.47 save percentage is pretty good for the King.
Yep, stopped 195 shots out of 206 against the Montreal Canadiens, and that wasn't no easy series either. So the Rangers are for real. I'm interested also to see how the trade works out for both teams with earlier last summer swapping Derek Brassard
swapping centers there, these two.
Derek Brassard for Mika Zibanejad, and both of them been worked out for both teams, I think.
Yeah, Zibanejad scored the OT winner for Ottawa in Game 6 against the Bruins.
Both paying off.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I think Ottawa's getting a lot of contributions throughout their lineup, and I really am interested to see. I can see Ottawa pulling this one out, but I'm going to go New York Rangers in 7.
Yeah, I think Ottawa will pull it out. I'm going to go Ottawa Senators in 7.
Okay. Moving on to the next series, we got the Washington Capitals and the Pittsburgh
Stanley
Penguins.
Cup right here.
Arguably the Stanley Cup final has the best 2 teams go head-to-head in the second round. What do you think about this one, sir?
I think that the NHL needs to do something about the playoff format, but that's a talk for another day. This is going to be the best series, maybe of the playoffs, but certainly of the second round with Sidney Crosby, Alex Ovechkin, Nick Backstrom, Geno Malkin. Mm-hmm. But the Penguins, their roster is looking a little different this time around compared to last year without star goalie Matt Murray as well as star defenseman Crystal Tang.
Yeah, the Ovechkin-Crosby series never gets old. It seems like every year it's a different chapter, and Sid's been dominating the last years. Actually, Washington hasn't beaten Pittsburgh in a playoff series since 1994, so they're looking to turn that around. But, Pittsburgh's playing their best hockey right now at the moment. They took care of Columbus in 5 games, which is no easy task. Columbus came in as one of the hardest teams to play against in the playoffs, but Pittsburgh showed that they can score and opportunistic, and showed why they're still Stanley Cup champions from last year.
Yeah, and Washington also had a good first round of their own, playing the Maple Leafs, the youthful Maple Leafs. They were battle-tested, 5 OT games, and I think they came out much stronger than
A lot of things go into that
They came
series.
in.
I think the Washington Capitals, it's kind of a blessing in disguise playing the Toronto Maple Leafs in the first round for a lot of reasons. One reason being Toronto, as young and speedy as they are, they kind of resemble a younger Penguin team, which kind of caught the Capitals by surprise, I should say. And
Yeah, it's a
really
good comparison.
hardened them up, and I think they're going to be ready for Pittsburgh speed. They seem to adjust Toronto speed as the series wore on. Games 1, 2, and 3 were kind of unpredictable, but as they settled in, they kind of caught their gaps on Matthews and Marner and really adjusted their defense to the speed. So I think they're going to do a lot of similar things to the Pittsburgh Penguins, but it'll be very interesting. Toronto and Pittsburgh are two way different teams, and they're going to need the best to beat Pittsburgh, that's for sure.
Yeah, Washington hasn't trailed. They didn't trail in that series since Game 2, so they've been playing better hockey as the playoffs went on. And I'm going Washington 7 in this one.
I as well. I'm going to go Washington in 7 just because I think they added a lot of different pieces in the offseason to match that Penguins bottom 6. Adding Lars Zeller to fill that third line center role and Brett Connolly on that third or right now fourth line. So Washington's really padded their bottom 6 to really compete against the Penguins bottom 6. And I think the addition of Kevin Shattenkirk in around March, the trade deadline, was a really, really big boost to Washington's blue line, as well as Crystal Tank being out. So I think that Washington's got the advantage in forwards, D, and goaltending and coaching.
Yeah.
So Washington 7 for me.
I agree. Well, that's going to wrap up our predictions here for the second round, but we'd like to give a quick shout-out to all the ESPN reporters, especially the NHL
Sad
side
day
of
in the
things
NHL.
that were laid off.
Scott Burnside.
Pierre LeBrun, Joe McDonald, you guys are great. We love reading your articles, and we wish you guys the best.
Yep, it's a big loss in the hockey world today, as these guys are phenomenal writers and insiders. Best of luck. I know you guys won't be unemployed for long.
Yeah, exactly. It won't be long. Thank you, guys.